Hey guys, it's Kelly. I got page number 5 done in my mixed media art journal, the second series. I called it Unforgettable. I think it's pretty cool how it turned out, but I didn't get all of the video, so at the end I'll try and talk you through the things that I missed real quick in a recap video. So sorry about that, but I did get most of it, but I missed the tail end of it. So I'm doing mostly paper kind of collaging. I have a Prima pad that I'm showing you right there. It's called Romance Novel. There is some really, really cool paper in there. And I decided I wanted to kind of play with that a little bit. And I have some corrugated cardboard there. That'll tell you how that worked out. And I'm just kind of pointing out some of the pages that are in this paper stack. Now, it's again one of those things I've had in my stash for a long time. I'm not sure if you can still get the Prima pad. But it's called Romance Novel. I believe I got this at Hobby Lobby, if I remember correctly. And that is the 6x6 pad. And I really, really like working with the 6x6 pads for my little mini art journals. And I just did a whole bunch of fussy cutting of elements that I liked before I started recording, because y'all know how to use scissors. So I didn't think it was worth recording that. And I kind of got a feel for how I do it. So I wanted to show you, I have some removable Scotch tape, and that stuff is pretty cool. If you don't have removable Scotch tape, you can probably use one of your, and I've done it before, you could probably use one of your washi tapes. Once you get a paper collage together in a format that you like, you can make it stick together. Obviously, take a picture of it with your cell phone. That's definitely something you should do, which I did, but then I'm recording with my cell phone, so I couldn't look at it. So I just taped it together with removable Scotch tape. And this is just packaging, and I think this is packaging from like a mandarin orange cup holder thing. But some of the packaging that you have can have the deep ridged corrugated cardboard, and all you do is just peel off one layer of it to kind of expose all that texture. I think it's super cool, and I love using that. And again, you're recycling, so you know it's a win-win. But I'm distressing it a little bit. I'm kind of manhandling it pretty good and making a mess on my glass mat there, but I'm using my distress tool, and I'm going to ink it up here too, because it's going to show off some of it. And it's kind of a big piece. So, and I spent a lot of time kind of fussing around with the layout. And a lot of people wonder, gosh, how does it just come together for everyone else? When you do a video, it sure looks like it all comes together really quickly, but no, half the time I don't know what the heck I'm doing before I get started. I just got some cool stuff on my desk, and I sure as heck hope something good comes of it. But I'm actually not even making a background for this one. I'm using just the paper because I loved the background's already created right there. And it's so cool. It's got the bingo sheet on it. It's got text on it. It's got numbers. It's already distressed looking. It was so, so perfect. So I thought, you know what? This is like instant journal time. I could just play with this and call it a day. So, yeah. So I just used some of the coordinating paper, and this was so much fun, and it was so relaxing. There was no stress involved with it whatsoever. I just did some, fussy cutting of cool little elements. There's a couple of the words in there that I kind of matted with some of the other paper that I had left over when I cut things out. So I was just playing with the paper and finding a cool collage type of way that looked nice in a style that I liked. Now, those rims, I just slid that out of my book. I do love that book. But those rims, not the rims, the binding, can get kind of hard to work around. And this time I decided, I knew I was going to have it black, so I painted it ahead of time. And I'm just working that in. And I only need to paint like the edges there. And I wound up going back and painting the other edges because I cut the paper to match pretty much perfectly, corner to corner, edge to edge. And that can get kind of messy sometimes, because a piece of it can still show. But I work that out later. So, and it dries super fast. I'm just washing my brush real quick because I got some black paint on it. And you gotta take care of your brushes. I got the same brushes I've had for years. It's because I wash them and dry them immediately when I use them. So I don't need to have the book out because the background is that gorgeous paper right there. I just love it. And I'm thinking, what am I going to use? I haven't used, I love my distress inks, not the oxide, which I do love those too, but I love using the distress inks. I always have, and I think I always will. They add such a cool element to distressing things, hence the name distress, but they make things look aged and just classy, I think. But I pulled out my inks and I'm going to use quite a few colors here. So I've got Vintage Photo, Walnut Stain, Frayed Burlap, and Black Soot. So, and I've got all of my sponges in a little container there. And those are all the ones I use for distress. But now that I have distress oxide, I got to have a separate container with distress oxide sponges because I don't want to go spending a ton of money. And unfortunately, I do. I got a whole bunch more sponges coming. And I got the domed ones coming, which I'm really excited about. But I try to keep them, I try to label them on the blue side with an abbreviation for the colors. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But usually you can figure it out. But this one is my Vintage Photo. And I started with Vintage Photo and just brought that in a little bit further and then hit the edges with the Black Soot. Now, I love the rectangular blending tool. It's one I learned on. It's the one that I think I'm good at. And I've learned to put my index finger on the top of it and then hold it with my thumb and middle finger and ring finger. And I have a really good control. And it goes exactly where I want it to. And I can angle the sponge exactly how I want it to get just the right amount of ink on there. I do love that. The smaller ones I'm actually having more of a challenge with. But I'm not going to give up on them yet. I'm going to keep trying. So once I got my background paper the way I wanted it, I wasn't sure how I was going to colorize this corrugated cardboard. So I tried a little extra sheet with, I have some Vintage Photo Distress Stain, and that kind of wasn't what I was looking for. So I tested it to see if I would like it, and I was like, nah, I don't like that. So after I decided that that wasn't going to work, I thought, you know, I'll just go on with Old Faithful, and I'll use my Vintage Photo on there and see how I like that. And I wanted to really highlight the texture in that, because having texture in our pages, and I like something that has a little bit of movement too, is always really interesting in the background. So I'm just using my sponge after I manhandled that piece and going all around it and getting the effect that I like. It takes a little bit of time, but, and it's cardboard, so it's porous, so it's really soaking up that ink, and I really like how that looks. But the problem is it's a little big. You know, I've got a small, I think that's like 4 3/4 by 5 1/4 or something. It's kind of a small workspace. So, and I love that background paper. And when I lay it down, that's a cool piece too, the cardboard, but it just swallows it whole. And I love how when you ink the outsides, it just makes that inside lighter color just pop right out at you. And I love it. But the cardboard was a little bit too big, and my collage, I'm like, well, if I keep this up, I'm not going to see anything in the background, which I love, and it's just going to be hidden. So I do a lot of fussing with all the little pieces that I cut out. Again, every little piece that you see there is from that paper pack, and it's got some really cool elements in there. And there's a couple pieces that I matted that I'm messing with right now. So I'm just playing with the extra words that I cut and where I want things laid out. And I tell you, you don't always know. You think you're going to go one direction when you do an art journal page. And for those that haven't done this before, I tell you, even though you have a great beginning, half the time it doesn't end that way. It just totally evolves into something completely different. I knew I wanted to use the Unforgettable as kind of like the focal point for well, it's not really a focal point, but the sentiment that I was going to kind of highlight. But I did need to ink all of these things, and the reason why is because, I think I tried to show you in the video, the reason why is because it's on white core paper, so the back of it is white. So anytime that you cut it on white core paper, you're going to be able to see that white core paper. I do not like that. There's nothing about that I like. So I'm going to ink everything, basically. So every little piece of paper on here winds up getting hit with Vintage Photo. Some of it gets hit with Black Soot. But and I was just playing with the layout thinking, gosh, everything is covered up and I love every piece of it. But I decided that I was going to take that apart and lose one of the bigger pieces. And I forget which one. I'll show you. But one of them just is put to the side, and I'm just not going to use it because I can wind up getting a little bit more interest in the background without covering it all up. Sorry, I'm still fighting a cold. So I looked for my frayed burlap distress sponge. Finally found it. And I really, really liked how that was. Sometimes you just need something a little bit more subtle. Vintage photo is great. Walnut stain is great. But sometimes something a little bit lighter, it kind of has like a tea stain. It's like I don't know, it was perfect for the color of the paper and the little subtle shadows that I wanted along each element that I was going to add. And I knew that I was going to leave it kind of matte and I wasn't going to put any water on it. The only water that I might be putting on here might have been splashes of either black or white. So I was okay to use the distress ink because the distress ink, if you get it wet, it will move. It reacts with water. So if you don't plan ahead and you use this, you can wind up with mud and ruining a beautiful project. So without that base knowledge, with which I think a lot of people have, but we do have a lot of newbies and beginners that have never done this. The distress inks are amazing and they are awesome when they react with water, but it's only amazing and awesome when it does it at the right time. Otherwise, you just wind up with all these beautiful colors that, you know, they all wind up mixing together and then they don't get along. Comes to some point where they just don't get along. So I found, again, that frayed burlap was really that perfect, not overpowering highlight that I wanted on all of the fussy cut elements that I had on this page. And of course, got to clean up my glass mat because I got ink all over the place. Not enough to reuse, so I just cleaned that up with a baby wipe. I'm still loving my glass mat. Absolutely love it. Oh, and I missed a piece. A lot of times you can just use whatever's left over on your sponge. Oh, I was showing you right there the white core on the paper. Don't let it show. Unless it's part of the whimsical thing, then that's cute. So here I am. I'm still like, oh, I love every little piece that I cut out and I love the plan. But if it was on a bigger, I don't know, if it was on a 12 by 12 scrapbook layout, it would be great. But yeah, it's not working. It's just covering up that beautiful background. So I ripped it up. I said, nope, it's just too much. And that beast right there is still too much. It's just not the right scale for this small page that I'm doing. So, and I keep trying because I think the texture in this cardboard is super, super cool. Hope you guys think that too. So, and either way, yeah, I'm inking it because I'm like, well, whichever one doesn't make the cut, I'll still put it in something at some point. So I might as well ink it like this. So, and it won't ruin it. It'll just make it better for when I do decide to use it. And I decided that that piece was just too big. I like the smaller piece much better. And it was definitely the right scale and it fit with the layout. So, and it's still kind of, I still wind up covering up a lot of the background, but you can still see the transition between the lighter shade and then the darker shade. And then all the interest in all the collaged pieces. So I thought it turned out good. And it was so relaxing doing this. I'll tell you, art journaling is really good therapy. I'm not saying anybody's crazy. Except for me, y'all know I'm crazy. But this kind of therapy is just good for the soul. You just create something beautiful for no reason other than just for the sake of just doing something. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it. Sometimes I get stumped and I can't find inspiration to make something. And anytime that happens, I've said it 100 times, I'll still say it. If you lean on your paper, your designer paper, you can find a lot, other than watching YouTube videos, of course. But if you lean on your designer paper, you'll get a lot of inspiration from there and just start cutting out pieces and collaging them together. You know, you have to like draw something and I can't draw anything but stick people for real. But you don't have to rely on that kind of artistic, you know, ability if you just don't have it like me, 'cause I don't have it. I can put things together and try and make something look pretty that way, but can I draw something? No, I can't. There's no way. It's just not my thing. And I don't want to try because then I get discouraged. So we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, and that's definitely not one of my strengths. So here I'm still messing with the layout, and I find something that I liked, and I was all excited, and I popped up the word unforgettable, and then my video runs out, guys, and I'm so sorry that that happened. I don't know why it happened, but it did, because I was able to do another video. So sorry about that, but that's the gist of it. So once I realized that I lost the end of this, I was just showing you the finished product. There's some really pretty pinks and blues in there, and I felt like they were lost, and then the page needed some color. And I put some metal elements. Those are the Tim Holtz paper clips. And what I did was I just took these little eyeshadow sponge things and just really lightly picked raspberries in there. It was picked raspberries and tumbled glass, because there was a real pretty light faint blue and a real pretty light faint pink. And I pulled those colors out. I put some gesso splashes on there, and I decided that that was enough. And then I glued it on my page. So there it is. Sorry you missed some of it, but thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and more to come.